There we go.
I just love the chromatics.
Thanks. You know, improvisation is a really, it's just a wonderful it's a wonderful art form that where you get to kind of just explore and really put all that theory that we learned directly into practice in real time. And it's just really wonderful to be able to express yourself in that way. So you know, I'm not sure how many folks here have much experience with improvisation. Do we have any folks who know a little bit, or do most people are kind of new to it, or they have some experience with improvisation? I guess a thumbs up if you've improvised before. Let's see how many thumbs up we might be able to get. See, one. Oh, just one person. Okay, well in that case, let's talk a little about the art of improvisation, and especially as it pertains to the flute and some of the unique things that the flute provides us access to. So this is really something that within the jazz tradition that we really deal with a lot. That's one of the main vehicles within the tradition, is the art of improvisation and how to kind of put all these pieces together in order to create melodies. So you know, everybody's role is a little different. As a horn player, you're generally out front and kind of required to carry the melody, the melodic component of any particular piece. So we have a bunch of tools at our disposal: sound, timbre, articulation, and of course, there's always the music theory behind it. How do you move from one chord to another, and how do you get folks to be able to hear these chords when you're just playing melodic instrument? And you don't have all the, you know, we're not pianists or guitar players or vibraphonists where we can play multiple instruments at the same time and have the person be able to hear what's kind of going on. So, you know, we employ I guess a concept known as voice leading to help the listener be able to hear what it is exactly that we're playing. And there's some conventions that we've generally been able to use that kind of helps us in that process. So I'll start a little more basic in that element, and then add some of the more fun things on after we kind of get level the playing field a little bit. So one of the main vehicles that we love to use in jazz is the blues, right? The blues is really the foundation for, and the foundational vehicle for all improvisation, for all jazz. Blues is also very closely related to gospel. We have what's called a blues scale, which is we have a minor blues scale and a major blues scale. And the minor blues scale is used for the blues, and the major blues scale is used for gospel music. It's the same scale, but they're different by a minor third. So depending on how you want to use it, you really get a different kind of sensibility. But there's a general basic form that we use in the blues that kind of helps orient us in any particular song. So I'll give you a little example of this on the flute, so you guys can kind of hear what I'm saying. I'll play a little a chorus on the blues, so you guys can get a sense of what's happening here. One. So there's your standard 12-bar blues form, right? And so really with the blues, we have, in our most basic version of the blues, we have 3 chords that we use. I'm playing, let's see, going from alto flute to concert always trips me up still to this day. Let's see. I'm playing in concert D. And, you know, in the key of D, the 3 chords we're going to use are the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. You've probably been very familiar with 4, 5, 1 as a chord progression. well, we use these same kind of chord progressions, but in a kind of funky way. We use completely dominant 7 chords, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, throughout the whole piece. And we play that first chord for 4 measures, the 1 chord for 4 measures. Then we go to the 4, we play that for 2 measures, back to the 1 for 2 measures, 5 chord for 1 measure, 4 chord for 1 measure, back to the 1 chord for 1 measure. I'm going to write that in the chat so to help you follow along a little easier as we go through this process. So it looks a little like this. So hopefully this is clear enough for everybody to see and be able to decipher. I wrote it in Roman numerals because that's generally the nomenclature that we use. So those I's are the 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 1. Sounds a little extraneous, but it'll make sense really, really soon. So I'm using these kind of chords in order to create my melodies. And this becomes really helpful in being able to figure out how to solo or improvise over a blues. And this is really what we use it for. So that first chord is going to sound something like this if I arpeggiate it. Pretty simple. We all know that sounds, right? So I'm going to play, that's going to happen 4 times. We'll get to our 4 chord. Back to our 1. To our 5 chord. To our 4 chord again. Back to our 1. And that's a blues. So to put it in context, if you kind of follow along, I'll give you a 1, 2, 3, 4. You should be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and kind of see where I am along the way. So give it a try. Here we go. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. Here's a 4. Back to the 1. 5. 4. 1. And we're back at the top. There's your blues. So when we're improvising, one of the things that we like to use, we have certain scales that are associated with each chord. So if we have a dominant 7 chord, it's our major scale with a flat 7. So all of those notes work over that chord. When I get to my 4 chord, it's going to be the same thing. Now I'm in the key of, let's say we're in D, right? It's going to be a D major scale with a flat 7. All of those notes work. When I get to my 4 chord, it's going to be a G major scale with a flat 7. All of those notes work. And when I get to the 5 chord, it's going to be, we're in the key of D, an A major scale with a flat 7. So to run those scales for you so you hear what they sound like. Pretty straightforward. And all I'm only using notes that are within that scale in order to make my improvisations happen. But we have something that's very unique. Our 3rd and our 7th note tend to be the strongest notes that lead us from one chord to another. So I tend to employ those a little bit more in terms of helping me lead the listener's ear from one place to the other. Does that make sense, everybody? I'm not moving too fast, right? Okay, great. So now that we kind of have a basic understanding of blues form and kind of some of the tools that we have available to use over the blues, there's another really cool thing that we like to use over the blues, which I was talking about earlier, that blues scale. The blues scale works over all the chords. It doesn't matter if you're changing on the 1 chord, the 4 chord, or the 5 chord. It sounds a little like this. So I can play that pretty much wherever I want at any time. It's your get out of jail free card that you could just throw into the mix. Or maybe you get lost, or you just want to change it up and add some spice into the gumbo, right? So I'm going to give you an example of a little bit of the scale and throwing a little bit of the blues scale into that as well. See if you can follow along. It's going to be the same format: 1 1 1 1 4 4 1 1 5 4 1 1. Same thing. Give me 1 second here. Here we go. 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, and. Blues form, just like that. So you could kind of hear where I went big go go bo bo do bo bo. That's our blues scale. And that's the thing that people say, oh, I like that little extra thing that you put on that. Right? That's our use of that blues scale. So generally we have a few different devices that we kind of mix all together in order to create our improvisations. One of the important things that really separates one player from the other is how we use our rhythm. It's not even necessarily which notes we use or how fancy the flurry of passages, but how rhythmically we place one thing next to another thing. What our phrases are. Each person tends to develop a certain set of phrases that they like to employ as they create their improvisation. I'll give you an example. I made a whole song out only using one phrase. Ba ba da ba, ba ba da ba, ba ba da ba. You see, it already got you moving in your chair a little bit just by doing that. Ba ba da da. Right? So really, that's one of the really fun things to be able to do is find a certain phrase and then, okay, maybe this time I'm gonna try 2 phrases and let's mix it up a little bit. Let's go with do 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 do. Those are my 2 phrases. I got boo boo doo boo and boo boo boo, 3/4 notes right down the middle, right? So you see, with that, I used 2 phrases, but I started to add a little bit more into the mix. And this brings me to the next point that I wanted to kind of bring up. The flute is really cool in that it has a whole bunch of little sounds and little tricks that you can employ to help add different colors and timbres to what it is that you're doing. So sometimes when we're playing, we have, an unwanted. We were expecting to hit that note right in the middle, but we have an unexpected turbulence, I guess you could say. Well, for the improvisational musician, we love those things. Those sounds that aren't supposed to be there, we say, oh, how can I use that? There might be a way to employ that to make that, make that enjoyable for the listener. So I'm going to try to make a few mistakes. Let's see if I can turn those mistakes into something that we want to hear. All right, let's give it a shot. Same blues, same format. Tap your foot, follow along. I'll count you in. You got it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Hey, it kind of worked. It kind of had a little thing on it, right? So one of the really cool aspects of improvisation is that, we like to say there are no wrong notes. You just haven't figured out how to resolve it yet. It's kind of like when you go into a room, somebody's creating tension and they're poking somebody and say, hey, calm down. Somebody comes in and says, hey, let's resolve all of this drama in the room, right? So, we kind of have the freedom to come in and create all the drama that you want, but you got to know your audience and your space. You cause too much drama, somebody might throw you out. So we like to definitely employ all of those aspects into our playing and into what we do. Any questions, anybody? Thus far? Well, why don't I give you a second to think about your questions? I did want to share with you guys a little bit of flute music, if that's okay. There's a really great saxophonist doubler. He's one of my big inspirations, one of my big heroes. His name is Rahsaan Roland Kirk. He was a blind saxophonist. He played alto flute, soprano flute, or excuse me, alto saxophone, soprano saxophone, tenor saxophone, the flute. He played, well, you'll see it in the video. He has a whole bunch of things kind of hanging from him, and in a particular order, and he plays some pretty cool sound. You'll see. Let me pull up this video and get it for you guys. I think I can share my screen here. Let's try sharing this one. Make sure that sound is enabled. There it goes. And let's find it here. Flute. There it goes. Share. All right. Hopefully everybody can see this. Yeah? All right. Let's... Were you guys able to hear that all right?
Fantastic.
So Rahsaan Roland Kirk, he's one of my favorites. He's a real big innovator in the music. He not only just on every instrument that he touches, a wonderful composer, an activist, and all of that. He just was amazing gentleman. For anybody who wants, let me see if I can grab this link, and I'll throw it in the chat in case anybody wants to check this link out later and hear a little bit more and discover a little bit more about Rahsaan Roland Kirk and this whole other world that we have here. Here we go. Yes, indeed. Here we go. That should get you there. And so for those of you who use Spotify, I do have a little gift for you all. I made a little Spotify playlist of some of my favorite flute compositions, featuring some primary jazz flautists as well as some really prominent doublers that I just love to give to y'all and share with y'all, and hopefully you guys can enjoy the music as much as I do. So I guess Jane, I guess we can perhaps open up for questions, or what do you think?
Yes, let's have people say something. Who would like to speak?
I'll ask a question.
Sure.
I am just now at my late age trying to learn to play jazz.
All right.
I have played flute all my life, but I barely ever had a theory lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So all this chordal stuff is new. What
Right.
I'd like to hear you do is take a standard tune and then improvise on it using the tools you just gave to us.
Sure. Okay. Let me think. What's a standard tune that I can come up with off the top of my head? Um,
All the things you are.
well, you want a jazz standard? Or I'm thinking of
Oh, and whatever.
I was thinking, a song that everybody kind of knows that you kind of grew up with. Maybe something like "Isn't She Lovely?" That's a pretty straight up one that everybody knows. What do you think about that one?
Good.
Yeah, a little Stevie Wonder. All right. Let's see if I can remember it all. There we go. So that's a standard that everybody kind of knows, and I stated the melody and then took a few liberties with a little improvisation. Came back with the melody again and went a few different places, trying to employ a little bit of that blues scale that we were talking about, defining those chords based upon the theory and the chord scale relationship, and then adding a couple fun notes and spices onto the mix to give it some character, if you will. Was that Marjorie, was it, that was speaking?
Yes.
Okay, so one of my recommendations, you said if you're at this point, you're looking to get into jazz and explore this world. I know the thing can be a bit daunting. You have hundreds of years of theory, kind of just go. What are you gonna do with it? It's a little, daunting to look at that mountain and think how you're gonna scale it. Really, I would start with the blues, which is why today I started with the blues. All of my students and all the people, myself included, we always started with the blues. And the blues it has so much information in it that you can extract to help you with that journey towards improvisation. So what I would certainly recommend that you start with getting a teacher of some sort that's kind of oriented in tradition, and really just start if you're comfortable with the flute, the instrument itself. That's going to be a big help, right? And taking it beyond that is really getting ingesting the rhythm, listening to a whole bunch of different flautists and trumpeters and saxophonists and trombonists, whoever you can listen to get a sense of that feel, that rhythmic feel. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we find in the difference between classical flautists and jazz flautists, or improvisational musicians, is that we really have a markedly different sense of feel and rhythm that comes from the phrasing, and kind of like the goal of the music, the goal of the presentation is pretty radically different in the two different genres. One is about expression in a very particular sort of manner, where the instrument is less important than what it is you're trying to say. The instrument is simply the vehicle to express what it is you're trying to say, and we have certain conventions that we've learned in order to play the instrument physically, that we bring over into this very particular expression. But in order to kind of start to tackle that mountain, I wouldn't actually start from a theoretical perspective. It becomes a bit daunting when you get it from that perspective. I would start with the blues and hearing the blues and really starting to internalize those forms, and then learning that blues scale and learning your major scales and how to alter those scales to fit the particular chords that are coming your way.
Thank you.
Hope that's helpful.
Someone else like to ask a question?
I just want to make a comment. This is Deirdre again. I know I say New York Flute Club, but I'm me. Maybe I can make myself visible. We had Chip and Dottie. I think Chip is here with us. And they did a session, the first session in the I Just Want to Play series was about jazz. And I don't know anything about it. And I found that both of these two things are really opening my ears to listening to music in a very different way. And I really, really appreciate that you've shared this with us, Irwin. Very, very wonderful program. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here. I always love to meet more of the flute community. You guys are a wonderful bunch. It's
well,
just really a pleasure.
It's important for us to sort of stretch ourselves a little bit.
Certainly.
We tend to, most of us have gone to conservatories and we kind of have taken this similar path. And, it's so wonderful. So thanks again.
Oh, my pleasure.
Mary Bruce.
I was very interested to hear how free your playing sound, and it didn't sound as though you were trying to make every single note as pure and beautiful as flute techniques, and what we all spend our time doing long tones, trying to perfect each note and make them all come out equally beautifully. But it sounds so liberating the way, some of them are kind of rough, and then you hit one beautiful thing that really resonates, and it's all over the map in terms of tone quality. And is this go with the territory, so to speak? Is it? I mean, that the idea is just to kind of play and get this going, and not to be preoccupied about technique, I would say, in terms of the instruments requirements.
He did answer that. Yeah.
That's a wonderful question and a wonderful observation. One of the beautiful things is that's really up to the individual artist. There are some artists who focus tremendously on the precision of getting the exact tone in the exact right place and making it fit over in particular places. And there are some musicians who throw who just throw caution to the wind and just kind of go for it and see what happens. And we're really allowed that freedom to see where you want to fall on that spectrum. Doublers, especially those who are coming from the saxophone perspective, the saxophone is a bit of a rough and rugged instrument. It kind of just has that appeal, that quality to it. So a lot of us tend to bring that over to the flute side when we play the flute. But there are some really wonderful flutists who really excel at bringing out their tone, really focusing on more of the traditional aspects of classical music in their approach to the instrument. But I would agree that the goalposts sit in a slightly different way. It's really, we're trying to express a certain emotion or quality or sound or lead a certain kind of story in a very particular type of way, and that becomes actually more primary than did how did I shape this G when I played it, or that could be, the whole thing could be about the way I shape the G, and I could just play a whole piece just playing one note. Sonny Rollins, actually, the great tenor saxophonist, was notorious for doing that. He would play one note on the saxophone. He'd play that one note in so many different ways. You just sit there captivated, be like, he's telling the whole story just holding a C. How the heck is he doing this? That was one of his many claims to fame, was his ability to do so.
Wow, thank you. It's really wonderful. I've loved the lesson too, that where to start from. That's great.
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
What is your relationship to classical music? Do you find yourself playing a Bach sonata, for example? And if you do you feel that it's overly confining on your sensibilities? So what is the experience of a real jazz musician playing classical music?
Well, that's a really wonderful question. It's really fun to think about these things and to have this conversation with folks. I would say, in my attempts to try to play a Bach sonata, for example, I don't necessarily find it restrictive. I find it to be a challenge for sure, but it's a fun challenge. But the goal is a bit different. My approach and my thought to when I'm approaching a piece like that, it is very different than when I'm picking up the horn to improvise with an artist or play with a group, or my own group for that matter. I tend personally, as a improviser, I tend to kind of use the classical repertoire to help build more technique, because we can always just work on more technique. There's always more to learn in that regard. So I kind of use that as a bit of a training tool for me to help me get more clarity and more control over the instrument when I'm going out into the field.
Ginny, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would. I'm curious. I have two questions. Number one is, as an influencer and somebody who's around a lot of young people, those who are playing the flute, where do you see their interest? Number one, do you see them still going with the classics or getting more interested and involved with improvising in jazz? And number two, how much of your publicity and your appeal do you put on social media?
So how much of, so let's start with the first one. I guess I would say, to how much do I see flautists kind of wanting to play classical music versus to experiment with other contemporary forms of music? Is that an accurate?
Yeah. Yes,
I feel like those who are called to follow a particular tradition are going to follow that tradition, and nothing's going to stop them from going that route. I think the degree to which our society, I shouldn't even say it like that. I think our society is always going to yield folks who appreciate and want to learn more about a particular tradition, especially the classical tradition on the flute, and the classical tradition on the for jazz as well, for that matter. And you'll find folks that fall on both sides of that spectrum. It's really a labor of love. It's a calling to play an instrument, to play and to dedicate one's life to an instrument. So, I'm a firm believer that there are always people who will answer that call. And when you get bit by that bug, whether that be the classical music bug or the jazz bug or the rock bug or whatever that bug is, when you get really bit by that bug, you're gonna stick with it, no matter no matter what obstacles kind of come your way. You're gonna know that that's what you want to do, and you're gonna follow it. And I think we do have enough institutions, and coming from a bit more of an oral tradition within the jazz world, we have those leaders who are going to pass that information down from one generation to the next. And I think we do have great institutions around the country, especially that hold that light and hold that fire strong, and that allow for that transmission to continue. I don't think we're in jeopardy of losing these traditions, because I think there will always be people who feel moved and called to move in a particular way. But perhaps the popularity in the pop machine might wane or might change. But when you listen to, there's just certain artists you listen to and it hits your heart.
Right.
There's nothing you can do about it. It's just, music is one of those infectious things that you can't turn your ears off. When you hear something and it gets into your soul and it resonates with you, you have to do it. And I feel like there's always going to be people who are that moved by, whether it be the process of learning the instrument or learning the tradition, or just the love for the music, the love for the tradition, the love for the culture that's associated with it. They're gonna follow it no matter what. I think the degree to which we're open about allowing people to kind of explore their worlds, I think that's something that we can be mindful of. For those who want to dabble in learning, jazz and learning classical, or add more pop sensibilities to whatever it is they're doing, I do think that we should allow for that. But also understand that there is a tradition that is sacred and that we hold dear to our hearts, and it's important to pass that on. And there's a space where that's where what we're supposed to do, and those spaces are sacred, and we need to kind of keep those spaces in existence, so that when people walk into those spaces, they know, okay, here we do this thing, and we know this is the Mecca. I can always come home after I've been around the world doing these things. I can always come home, and I know somebody's gonna be there with the whip. It'd be like, hey, that C ain't right. You better do some more long tones. All right, yeah, yes, teach, you right. All right, let me go these long tones. I've been playing too much of that pop music. I've been jamming too hard and dancing too much.
Right. But I ask about the social media piece, because as we grow and expand, I think we should follow you. If you're on Instagram, we should follow you.
That would be lovely. I'd appreciate it.
I'd like that, but it would also be good for us too,
Yes,
to
certainly.
follow you. So I think if you want to share your addresses with us in the chat, that would help us.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you saying that. I'll write it right here. You can generally find me everything at Irwin. I think I muted myself accidentally. You can find me pretty much everything at Irwin Hall. I'll put my Facebook here. I think it's Irwin Hall Music for Facebook. For Instagram,
Why don't I see it?
I'm typing still.
Oh,
Sorry. And,
it's too hard.
and then I have my website also you can go to. So there you go. Those are 3 different sources you can reach me at. My website at the bottom, Facebook at the top, and Instagram in the middle. I'm really most active on Instagram, and kind of what I do on Instagram goes out to Facebook as well for my page out there. But I encourage you to follow me on everything that you can follow me on, and you also see if some more artists. I'm always collaborating with different folks, so I think we all really do love having a sense of community and being able to share our particular traditions and art forms with each other. And the degree to which, you guys are always welcome at any of my shows for sure. Jane has been to a few.
And I loved them. I have too.
Yeah.
Anyone else like to ask anything or comment? Well, I have a comment. You're a fantastic teacher, Irwin. I learned
thank you.
so much tonight. Thank you very, very much. We loved your playing too.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here with you all. I really appreciate you spending the time, spending your Thursday night with me. It's really awesome.
We'll see you again for sure.
Yes,
Thank
please
Yes,
do.
we'll see you
Bye-bye.
again. Thank
All
you
right.
so much. And thanks everyone for joining us. I just want to play on the third Thursday
And,
of
and
every month.
just real quick, if anybody's hanging around, tomorrow night, or Friday night, I'm playing at Minton's with a fabulous guitarist named Allison Yaffe. She's bringing together a bunch of really great artists to come join her. It's her birthday as well. So if any of you are in town, you're welcome to come to Minton's. It's in Harlem, 118th and St. Nick's. I believe we start around 7 or 8, something like that. But go to my social media and you'll see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, Irwin.
Bye, everybody.
See ya. See ya.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you. Thank you so much.